of the most beautiful people in the world, and a very gifted man, and it's a loss to the world.
I started a joke, which started the whole world crying.
The stage was silent. Robin Gibb stepped into the light, microphone in hand, and the opening notes of I Started a Joke began to echo through the hall.
I started a joke, which started the whole.
The crowd cheered, but Robin's face told a different story. His eyes carried a heaviness, a shadow that seemed to follow him everywhere this song was sung. People thought it was just another Bee Gees ballad, a tender melody about love and loss. But for Robin, it was much darker. This wasn't simply music, this was a confession wrapped in sound. Years later, Robin admitted something that stopped fans in their tracks. The song wasn't written as a clever metaphor or a playful lyric. It came from a place so raw, so personal, that he confessed it still brought him to his knees every time he performed it. But what was the secret behind this haunting ballad? Why did Robin Gibb, at the height of his fame, say a song loved around the world carried unbearable sadness? And more importantly, what truth was he really hiding inside the words? Stay with me, because this is the story of the Bee Gees' quietest brother, the song that broke him, and the moment he finally told the world what it really meant. You're watching RetroWaves, where we uncover the hidden stories behind the music you thought you knew. If Robin Gibb's haunting confession already has you curious, hit subscribe, give this video a like, and join our community of music lovers who crave the truth behind the songs. Because here on RetroWaves, the music is only the beginning of the story. In 1968, the Bee Gees were on the rise. They had left behind their early struggles in Australia, moved to England, and were carving out a sound that set them apart. While Barry's powerful voice often took center stage, Robin's trembly, aching delivery gave the band its soul. That year, Robin recorded, I Started a Joke.
Half the joke was on me.
At first, people assumed it was just another melancholic ballad, a song designed to pull at the heartstrings, but when listeners pressed him for its meaning, Robin would give cryptic answers. He hinted that it was about feelings of loneliness, of being misunderstood, of crying out while the world laughed. The song became a hit, climbing charts around the globe, covered by countless artists, cherished at weddings, and even played at funerals. To fans, it was beautiful. Behind the scenes, he wrestled with feelings of isolation. Even within the Bee Gees, tensions ran high. Robin often felt overshadowed by Barry, and their arguments about who should sing lead nearly tore the group apart. Was this song Robin's way of crying out for recognition, or was it something deeper? A window into his own sadness. By the time he was 38, Robin could no longer hide the truth. He admitted that the song was born out of a deep sadness inside him. A sadness so strong, he said, it would bring him to his knees every time he sang it. But where did that sadness come from? And why did this one song carry such unbearable weight? It was 1968, and the Bee Gees were in London recording what would become their Idea album. The studio was alive with creativity, but also filled with tension. Robin had always been the most sensitive of the Gibb brothers. His voice carried a fragile ache, a tremble that seemed almost too exposed. When he stepped up to the microphone to record I Started a Joke, nobody could have guessed how much of himself he was pouring into it. The melody was slow, mournful, almost church-like. His delivery sounded as if he were confessing something private to the world, and yet he never told anyone exactly what it meant. For decades, fans speculated. Some believed the lyrics had a religious undertone, that it was about God, sacrifice, and misunderstanding. Others thought it was about fame, the idea that when Robin laughed, the world cried, and when he cried, the world laughed. But Robin stayed vague. In interviews, he described the song as being about feeling out of step with the world, about being misunderstood. And though he rarely said more, his performance told the rest of the story. Every time he sang the line, I finally died, which started the whole world living, His voice cracked with an intensity that didn't sound like acting.
I finally died, which started the whole world living.
It sounded lived in. Even Barry later admitted that Robin's performance was so powerful, it gave the Bee Gees one of their most haunting ballads. Still, the question lingered, where did Robin's sadness come from? Was it only artistic inspiration, or was he bleeding pieces of himself into every note? When I Started a Joke was released, it shot up charts across the globe. In some countries, it reached #1. Fans wept to its lyrics, and artists began covering it almost immediately. To the world, it was beautiful. To Robin, it was heavy. Audiences interpreted it however they wanted. Some said it was about guilt. Others claimed it was a satire about society, that Robin was mocking the world for missing the point of life itself. Still others insisted it had Christian imagery, pointing to lines about dying and living again. But here's the truth. Robin never confirmed any of those. He only hinted at one thing, that it was about loneliness and misunderstanding, and that is what makes the song so mysterious. He once described it as if the lyrics had been given to him rather than written, almost like they came from somewhere else. A voice in the air he simply captured. Some fans have even speculated, though this is rumor, not confirmed, that Robin felt the song was almost prophetic, as if it revealed truths about life and death he couldn't fully explain. But in public, he gave only fragments. He said it was about feeling alienated, about crying when the world laughed, about being out of step with everyone around you. That kind of confession was rare in the 1960s music scene, where many songs chased love and joy. For Robin, this was different. It wasn't made to be commercial. It wasn't written to charm. It was written because he couldn't hold it inside. And yet, the more people celebrated it, the harder it became for Robin to sing, because every performance forced him to relive the sadness behind it. Fame is supposed to be the cure for loneliness, but for Robin Gibb, it was often the opposite. At just 19, he was living in the epicenter of the music world, standing shoulder to shoulder with legends, yet privately feeling like a stranger in the very life he had dreamed of. The Bee Gees had finally broken through. They weren't the struggling family band from Brisbane anymore. They were international stars. But Robin, the middle brother, often carried the weight of being overlooked. Barry was charismatic. His deep voice and later falsetto made him a natural frontman. Morris was grounded, the easygoing glue, who smoothed over conflicts. Robin, by contrast, was quiet and reflective. His voice had a piercing, almost ghostly quality. Critics called it haunting, fans called it otherworldly, but Robin called it simply his truth. And sometimes, that truth was too heavy to bear. Those close to him described Robin as sensitive, a man who felt everything deeply, from joy to sorrow. Even in moments of success, he seemed to carry an invisible weight. He wasn't the kind of person to shrug things off. If he was hurt, he carried it. If he felt misunderstood, it haunted him. That's why I Started a Joke didn't sound like an act. It sounded like a diary entry he had accidentally left open for the whole world to read. The lines, "I started a joke," which started the whole world crying, weren't abstract poetry. They were the words of a teenager who already felt out of step with the world around him, who laughed when others cried, and cried when others laughed. Some biographers have suggested that Robin might have struggled with depression, even in those years. That has never been officially confirmed, but his behavior, his withdrawn nature, and the haunting sadness in his songs made many believe it was possible. And so the cruel irony remained. The very song that gave Robin his most unforgettable spotlight also tied him to the sadness he had been trying to escape. The Bee Gees weren't just a band, they were a family. And like any family, rivalry was inevitable. By 1969, just a year after I Started a Joke had made Robin a household name, cracks began to show. The question of who should sing lead became the spark that nearly burned everything down. Robin believed his voice was the one that gave their ballads emotional weight. Barry, on the other hand, had a more versatile vocal range that producers favored. It wasn't that Barry didn't respect Robin, he did, but record executives and radio programmers often wanted Barry's smoother, more commercial tone. Robin, already sensitive, felt sidelined, and that hurt ran deep. The arguments grew bitter. Robin accused Barry of controlling the group. Barry accused Robin of being too fragile. Morris, caught in the middle, tried to keep the peace, but struggled to stop the storm. In 1969, Robin made a shocking decision. He quit. He released a solo single, Saved by the Bell, which topped the charts in the UK.
Saved by the bell.
On paper, it was a success, but personally, it was devastating. Because deep down, Robin didn't want to be away from his brothers. He wanted recognition within the Bee Gees, not outside of it. The separation lasted only a short time before they reconciled, but the scars never fully healed. And for fans who look back, the lyrics of I Started a Joke felt prophetic. The singer who cried while the world laughed wasn't that Robin himself, singing not just about life, but about his own family battle for a voice. The Bee Gees moved on, reunited and stronger. But Robin never forgot the sting of feeling misunderstood, even by those closest to him. And every time he sang that haunting ballad, the echoes of those years came back. The Bee Gees' story took a dramatic turn in the 1970s. Disco arrived, and with it came the brothers' rebirth. Suddenly, they were no longer the group behind melancholy ballads. They were the kings of the dance floor. Staying alive.
Staying alive. Staying alive. Staying alive.
Night Fever. How deep is your love?
Deep is your love. How deep is your love?
Barry's falsetto became the defining sound of the era. The Bee Gees were unstoppable, but no matter how brightly disco burned, one song followed Robin everywhere. I Started a Joke. Fans never let it go. Even in the middle of the disco craze, concertgoers would beg to hear it. Cover versions popped up in multiple countries. To the world, it was Robin's signature, the song that made him unforgettable. But to Robin, it was a chain. By the 1980s, Robin had admitted publicly that performing the song was difficult. He said it brought him close to tears every time. Fans thought that emotion was part of the show, but Robin wasn't acting. He was reliving the very feelings that had driven the song in the first place. The more audiences demanded it, the harder it became for him. Imagine carrying the same heartbreak for decades, reopening it night after night in front of thousands of people. That was Robin's reality. There are rumors, though not confirmed, that Robin sometimes avoided including it in set lists because of the toll it took. Whether or not that's true, what is certain is that the song haunted him. It was beloved by the world, yet heavy for the man who gave it life. A paradox that Robin never quite resolved. As the years passed, I Started a Joke took on a life of its own. It was no longer just a Bee Gees hit. It became a song that accompanied people through their most vulnerable moments. Fans wrote to Robin telling him they played it at funerals, that the song helped them grieve for parents, partners, even children they had lost. Others said it carried them through depression, through nights when they felt completely alone. Robin listened. He always responded with gratitude, but deep down, those stories weighed on him. Because while the song helped others, it kept Robin tethered to the same sadness that had created it. One of the most striking parts of the song is the line, I finally died, which started the whole world living.
I finally died, which started the whole.
Hated its meaning endlessly. Was it religious? Was it about self-sacrifice? Or was it Robin confessing something darker, a glimpse into his own feelings about mortality? Robin never gave a definitive answer, but in interviews, he admitted that the song came from a very deep place of sadness. That was the only clue he offered.
And so, the mystery remained. But what is undeniable
is that the song became inseparable from grief. For fans, it was healing. For Robin, it was a wound that never closed. By the 1990s, the Bee Gees were legends. Their legacy stretched across decades, from soft ballads to disco domination. Yet Robin, even in later years, never escaped the shadow of "I Started a Joke." When he performed it, his voice still cracked in places. Listeners thought it was emotion, and it was, but it was also exhaustion. Singing that song was like carrying a weight that grew heavier with age. In 2003, tragedy struck when Robin's twin brother Morris died suddenly from complications after surgery. The loss devastated Robin. He was hospitalized for grief and depression, a fact confirmed by multiple reports at the time. After Morris's death, "I Started a Joke" became even harder to perform. Every lyric seemed to echo with loss, not just personal sadness, but now the grief of losing his closest companion. Fans say, though this part is rumor, that Robin avoided speaking about the song during this period because it brought him too close to the pain of Morris's absence. Yet when he did sing it, the audience felt the rawness in every note. It was no longer just about misunderstanding. It had become a lament for everything Robin had lost. By the 2000s, "I Started a Joke" was Robin's anthem, whether he liked it or not. Faith No More released a cover in 1998 that reintroduced the song to a new generation. Younger fans discovered Robin's haunting ballad and began to ask questions all over again. What did it really mean? Robin never gave them a neat answer. Instead, he repeated the truth he had hinted at for decades. It came from sadness, and it always hurt him to sing it. At one performance in the later years, Robin was asked in an interview how he felt about the song after all this time. His reply was simple, and it stunned those listening. "Every time I sing it, it brings me to my knees." It was the first time he openly admitted the toll it took. The song was not just art, it was a mirror of his own pain, one he couldn't escape. The fans loved it more for that reason. They felt closer to him, connected through vulnerability. But for Robin, that vulnerability was a prison he could never leave. The stage lights dimmed. Robin stepped forward, now older, his once youthful face lined with time and loss. The audience waited for the first notes, and as the strings began, a hush fell over the room. He opened with "I Started a Joke," which started the whole world crying, and suddenly the years collapsed into that one fragile voice. It was the same tremble he had carried since he was 19, only now it carried decades of grief. The loneliness of youth, the sting of sibling rivalry, the pain of public misunderstanding, and the unbearable loss of Morris. Robin's confession about the song, that it brought him to his knees every time, wasn't poetry, it was the truth. Fans saw tears in his eyes during certain performances. Some believed it was staged. But those close to him insisted it wasn't. He was reliving his sadness every time. In that moment, the irony of Robin's life became clear. A song born out of his private sorrow had become the anthem that gave him eternal fame. Millions adored it. And yet, for the man who gave it life, it was a wound that never healed. The world thought "I Started a Joke" was just another Bee Gees ballad. Robin knew better. It was his story, his sadness, his confession. And as the final line echoed, "And I fell out of bed, hurting my head, from things that I said," it wasn't just a lyric. It was the sound of Robin Gibb, still trapped in the song that defined him, still breaking every time he sang it. So what do we make of Robin Gibb's haunting confession? That every time he sang "I Started a Joke," it brought him to his knees. The truth is simple, yet heavy. The song was never just a ballad. It was Robin's heart, written in melody. A heart that carried loneliness from youth, conflict from family, and grief from loss. For fans, the song was a comfort. They played it at funerals, clung to it in heartbreak, and found meaning in lines that seemed almost spiritual. Robin gave them hope, even if the words came from a place of despair. That's the paradox. Music born out of sadness can bring healing to others. For Robin, though, the healing wasn't as easy. Each time he stepped to the microphone, he was asked to reopen a wound he had never fully closed. He wasn't just performing, he was confessing. And that's why the emotion never faded. What makes this even more powerful is that Robin never wrapped it in mystery. He didn't spin stories or play to myths. He admitted openly that the song came from sadness. He admitted that it hurt him. Looking back, it's no surprise that I Started a Joke became the song people most associate with Robin Gibb. Barry had the soaring falsetto of the disco years. Morris had the harmonies that glued everything together. But Robin had the ballad that carried pure, fragile truth. And maybe that's why the song still matters today. Because when you listen, you don't just hear music, you hear a man who gave the world his sadness, and in doing so, gave us something eternal. So yes, Robin Gibb confessed it still brought him to his knees. And maybe that was the point, because sometimes the songs that hurt the most are the ones that last forever. Robin Gibb's voice may be gone, but his confession still lingers in every note of I Started a Joke, a ballad born out of loneliness, carried by grief and immortalized by honesty. What do you hear when you listen to it? Does it sound like a love song, a prayer, or a confession? Or do you hear Robin himself telling us his story in the only way he knew how? Tell us in the comments below. And if you want more stories like this, the secrets behind the songs, the truths behind the legends, subscribe to RetroWaves, because here, the music never dies.